to the front seats in the church. It's never going to be an issue, right? As we can see today. And if you go to any other church, you will see the same thing. In the last church that I worshipped in before I was assigned here, it was a very large old church, and it was not full by any stretch of the imagination. And so the sides people would sort of rope off the back pews to encourage people to come further forward. What do you think happened? Oh yes, people would just lift up the rope and fall under, or just take the rope down, step over. But then the best part was then they would take the rope back and like tie it back up on the pew, so they're sort of like in their own little worship chorale, maybe, or whatever that was thing. I think they felt safe. Church seating is a very interesting phenomenon. I'm sure you've all observed it as parishioners, as those of us who sometimes worship from the front of the building. Church seating has its own peculiar tendencies. You can actually go on the internet and put in the question, why do people sit in the back at church? And there are pages of sermons, articles, 9 reasons why people sit at the back. Why do Baptists sit at the back? It goes on forever. It's very fascinating. But people choose their seats. You all are sitting in the same seats you were sitting in last week. I always know who's late because I just look at your space. People are very particular about that. I've been in parishes where if someone is sitting in their seat, they'll just come and stand. So guys, we'll just sort of stand and give them the cut eye till the person just shuffles over. Some people only want to sit at a certain place in the pew. Some people want to be at the end. Some people want to be in the middle. Some people on the other end. And even if people are desperate to get in and thinking, oh, I'm late, that person is not moving. They're going to have to step over yourself to get to the space because they are always going to sit on the end. They're not moving in a tiny bit for you or anybody else. Sometimes people like to have a lot of space around themselves. So there's the old, I'll put my purse on this side of me, put my books on this side of me, or my coat on this side of me, just to make sure no one gets too close to my space. In my last congregation, once someone had died, no one could sit in their seat. Not by fiat, but just by general understanding. So that people would, if someone came to sit there, no explanation, but I do, oh, well, that's where Mrs. So-and-so used to sit. So we have great peculiarities, and we may not want to sit at the front, except for when there's a special occasion. And how often have we all come to a wedding, celebration of baptism, or a funeral celebration if the church is quite full, and some people will just come right up because they want to be in the front. And we've all witnessed that scene where the unfortunate sides person has to come up and go, I'm sorry, these are reserved for the family. And that poor person has to get up and sort of sidle around looking for another spot. And this is what Jesus is talking about today when he talks to the Pharisees. And it's important for us to notice the little details here because he's telling this story in a particular way to a particular group of people. And he gives us clues at the beginning, as the writer alludes, as to how we should interpret this. On the surface, it looks like Jesus is talking to the Pharisees about how they conduct themselves. The name Pharisees means separate. The Pharisees were an extremely pious group of people who deliberately kept themselves separate from others. They observed fasting several times a week. They tithed rigorously, but they did not want anyone who did not share their piety to come close to them, to touch them. They didn't interact with them. They didn't want to have anything to do with them. They would avoid people who were not of their group. So Jesus is speaking to them. He's at the home of a Pharisee, which is quite surprising because we think of Jesus as being in opposition. But Jesus enjoys his contact with the Pharisees because the Pharisees, unlike the Levites and the Sadducees, liked to debate the law. They liked to debate the law because they weren't rigorous followers of it. They liked to kind of see how the application of the law could be changed, could be nuanced, could be applied to certain situations. except for when it came to themselves. So Jesus, we see often debating with them because they were very strong interpreters of the law and they knew it well. They had taken synagogue worship and begun to bring it to the common person. And that's why we see the Sunday today, they're in someone's house, they're having a meal. And Jesus talks to them about this separateness, about this wanting to be first, about them being only unto themselves. And he tells them, almost in the words that we hear in Jeremiah today, that this is a worthless thing. It makes them worthless. That the things that they are chasing after, this pure, pious kind of faith that doesn't interact with others, that keeps people away, is not kingdom value. It's not kingdom morals. It's not a kingdom way of living. And the Pharisees believed in resurrection. They believed in a reward that came after. So Jesus was talking to them on their ground. This wasn't an unknown topic to them. And so he's saying to them, consider this. Consider that you're at a wedding. What would happen if you, continuing to think that you're the best, goes to the front and then your poor host has to tell you to move down? And we know when we go to official events that the big ups always come last. They show up right before the service. They don't want to be sitting around reading the bulletin, waiting for things to happen. They come right at the last because they're the honored guests. So anybody who might sit in their seats is bound to be pushed back. Is bound to be asked to move. So Jesus is saying to them, you might think you're the most important, but I have bad news for you. There will always be people who are more important. And the thing that was difficult for them, and the thing that's difficult for us to understand, is the people who were the most important were those that Jesus saw were the most needing assistance. Those people outside the Pharisees' social group. Those people who are outside maybe our comfort zone as well. The people that will be first, we're told in the gospel, will be last. And the people we most think should be last are going to surprise us and be first. So he says to the Pharisees, why do you think you're so faithful? Why do you think you're the best? Why do you think you're first? You're going to be last. And he uses a marriage in this parable to be delivered. To be delivered. Because there's a parallel there he wants us to understand. We like to be first at fun things. We want the best seats at the theater. We want the best seats at a sporting event or a musical event, at a parade. But when it comes to other things, we sometimes want to step back and let someone else go ahead. And Jesus is suggesting that happens when we see someone in need that we don't particularly want to help. When we see someone needing something and we think, they're not really my friends or my family, so why should I help them? Let someone else come forward. We're happy to take second place because we hope someone else will be the first to come forward and relieve us of the burden of having to help. Now, sometimes we don't help because we don't think we know the right thing to do. Or worse, we think if we try to help them, they'll say, no, I don't need your help. Or we might do a wrong thing. Or we might do a haphazard thing or a neck thing. And we don't want to be embarrassed. Sometimes we just don't want to be inconvenienced, or sometimes we just don't want to be late. So we prefer to sort of step back. Unlike all those messages we get, be first in your family, first in your school, first in your neighborhood, first in this, to get this thing or that thing, to have this car, to wear those clothes, to have this gadget, to get the best interest rate possible, to go on this exclusive vacation. Despite the messages to be first for the great things, we sort of step back from those messages that say, be the first to help, be the first to come forward, be the first to inconvenience yourself, or embarrass yourself, or humble yourself, or step outside your comfort zone. We'd rather be second and watch someone else do it and think, well, I don't want to be first, but I might help. And then we wonder, where's my reward? We know the reward we get when we're important. Everyone turns to watch us. When we're the guest of honor, when we come in last because we're seated in those great places, looks at us. We think, oh, I'm in the front of the plane. I'm drinking champagne. Everyone else is going to the back. But those values, Jesus tells us, are not kingdom values. As Jeremiah says, they are worthless things, and pursuing them makes us worthless people. They are without profit. They give us no value at the end of time. Jesus chooses a way because he wants us to remember that we are all called to a wedding banquet at the end of time. And he says, if you don't dress like you're called to a banquet, if you don't act like you're going to a wedding, if you don't espouse those values of the wedding in the kingdom of God, kingdom values, kingdom morals, kingdom thoughts, kingdom actions, how will you then recognize when Jesus comes to you and invites you to his wedding banquet? When he calls you, how will you recognize that call? How will you know that the kingdom has called you? He reminds us today, in your rush to be first, you may find yourself last. When Jesus calls us to espouse the values of the kingdom, when we say, your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, he wants us to be those guests that recognize his call to us, both here